May 1st, 2003. An alderman and deputy mayor for the city of Lethbridge, Dar Heatherington, leaves the city for a business trip to the neighboring state of Montana. The entire Lethbridge City Council is going with her, and they plan to take a van together. She elects to rent a red Ford Focus and drive alone instead. Arriving in Great Falls that night, nothing seems out of the ordinary. May 3rd, 2003. The last day of the trip. Dar wakes up and calls her husband around 9 a.m., letting him know that she won't be back to Lethbridge that night for her daughter's piano recital. She says it's due to a meeting with the Great Falls councillor, and then calls the very same councillor and cancels all her meetings. She then goes down to a pawn shop, buys a $10 bike, and parks her rental car outside the Great Falls Civic Center. Then just vanishes. For a little while. The case would lead 3 different police departments on an international search that cost taxpayers in Montana and Alberta over $30,000, and cause a personal hell for her that I could only wish upon my worst enemies. Let's dive into Dar Heatherington. Dar was elected in 2001 as an alderman for Lethbridge. Yes, alderman despite being a woman, because Lethbridge didn't change the term to councillor until 2012. For 2 years, nothing of interest happens. Dar is an everyday small-town city alderman, and maybe that was her problem. October 28, 2002, a letter arrives at Dar's home. I don't want to spoil the contents, but Lethbridge police say it's of a sexual nature. She starts to get more and more letters from what seems like an obsessed stalker rapist. Some are placed in her car, some in the post, and some just unstamped and placed in her mailbox by the perpetrator. She naturally gets the police involved, as this seems like an obsessed stalker. Dar is a working mother of 3 and married to David, a platoon chief for Lethbridge Fire Services. She doesn't need this stress in her life. As the cops go through the letters, they find something odd. Every letter is signed with a name. It's enough of a clue they execute a search warrant on April 30th, for Dar herself. Yes, the victim of the case was put under electronic surveillance. Something smells fishy, and I don't think it's the old man river trout. She had to leave for a conference in Great Falls on May 1st, the very next day, so she avoids scrutiny for now. When asked why she drove down herself as opposed to with the other aldermen, she mentioned she wanted to spend an extra day. By 4 p.m., most of the Lethbridge delegation departs, leaving Dar alone with Bob Tarlick, the mayor of Lethbridge. He calls her, but she doesn't pick up. Then, the fateful day, May 3rd, 2003. Let's go into more detail as per the National Post. 9 a.m. Dar is expected back by 3 p.m. She calls home and says she won't be there and blames meetings. About 10 p.m. She calls the person she is supposed to have a meeting with and leaves a message saying she has to be back in Lethbridge for her daughter's piano recital. Dar says she's been awake since 6 a.m. and has been just driving downtown Great Falls aimlessly. I don't know why she told her that. Around 11 a.m. she stops at Dragonfly Dry Goods, a souvenir shop, and buys gifts for her family. At 11 a.m. exactly, Dar enters the Alias Smith & Jones pawn shop, buys a bike for $10, and tells the clerk she's going to ride it around town.
A short time later, the $10 bike starts to act up. Thankfully, a stranger in a pickup truck stops on his way to LA and asks if she needs help. He takes out his tools, tells her to sit in the front seat of the truck, and gives her an already open drink to enjoy. This is a word of advice, and I really think you should heed this. Never drink from a stranger's open bottle. That's all I gotta say. Dar begins to feel queasy, naturally, and asks to be driven back to her car at the Civic Center. We all know she never made it.
By 11 p.m., David Heatherington is submitting a missing persons report. A day later, on May 4th at 1 p.m., her rental Ford Focus is found at the Civic Center. Everything is found inside: her wallet, jacket, phone, and all the gifts she purchased. There is no sign of struggle, and her keys were haphazardly tossed underneath the sedan. And if I could just make a personal comment here, Great Falls, you sound like a hell of a safe city if no one stole that car. May 5th, 2003. The official start of the investigation. Front page news on the Great Falls Tribune. Both towns are stunned. David and her kids are understandably heartbroken and worried sick. The Great Falls police scour the river area. A man at the Holiday Inn she's staying at is questioned, but later let go. Montana investigators hit a dead end and decide to call up the local Lethbridge police for any leads. They're told, "Oh, Dar? Yeah, we know Dar. She has a history with us." That's never a good sign. She isn't known for her stoic decorum or living either. Dar is said to be one of the busiest aldermen in Lethbridge, racking up about $16,000 in chargeback expenses. She gets angry at council meetings, but overall is seen positively by her co-workers. It's only her first term after all. May 7th, 2003. David and the kids are making Mother's Day cards when they get a call from the police. Foul play is not expected. David Heatherington can't fathom why Dar wouldn't want to come home, but what the newspapers up north don't know is that on May 6th, Dar had been found. 10:39 p.m., May 6th. A valet and security guard outside the Treasure Island Hotel in Paradise, Nevada, where the Las Vegas Strip is actually located, by the way, spot a stunned lady stumbling around the parking lot before a pirate show. Probably worried she might interrupt the show, the valet goes over to her and asks if he can assist. It's Dar. She claims she's been drugged, kidnapped, and raped 3 times. Driven all the way to Las Vegas by her attacker, and then miraculously left alive. Despite wanting to press charges, Dar isn't forthcoming with any information to the Las Vegas police. Roughly an hour later, police take her to get a physical and attempt a rape evaluation. For someone who says they want to press charges and needs help, she's very uncooperative, refusing the rape exam. Dar also refuses a male doctor and eventually lets a female one give her a short, non-invasive exam. Police try to press her for information, but all Dar says is that she's tired and doesn't want to be interviewed. By 3 a.m., the police are pretty done with her. She refuses a rape exam one last time, so they get her a hotel room and wait for David. By 11:30, she's on a private plane, and by 5:30 a.m., she's in Great Falls for questioning. Nothing is adding up. Dar isn't just cold with the Great Falls police, she's frozen. She says she was drugged and abused by a man from Alberta who happened to be in Great Falls. He stopped to chat with her while she was on her bike and offered her a ride to California. Then backpedals and admits to making up a good chunk of the story. In case you don't know this, providing false information to the police in Canada and the USA is a crime. Don't do that. I'm not a lawyer though, so that's not legal advice, but seriously. Dar is charged with lying to the police and appears in Great Falls Court on May 20th. This was her first offense, and because of that, the court treats her way too lightly in my opinion. With a not guilty plea, she only has to pay $100 and get some therapy. She's free to go back to Lethbridge and face the figurative firing squad. The timeline provided by the Calgary Herald paints a baffling picture of a defiant imbecile refusing to understand when she's been caught. June 7th, 2003.
Under intense citizen pressure to resign, she asks for a leave of absence from her duties.
3 days later, Dar Heatherington is officially booked by the Lethbridge police and charged with public mischief, which carries a maximum sentence of 5 years. June 16th, she returns to council. When interviewed for television, she breaks down but stands defiantly by her story, claiming all these investigations by 3 different police departments are just bullying tactics. September 8th, her sentencing. Naturally, her lawyer pleads not guilty to all charges. That's right, Dar doesn't even show up to her own arraignment. The Calgary Herald interviews her lawyer, Tracy Hembroff, who has elected to not try this in front of a jury for a very good reason. I would have to travel halfway around the world to find a jury that hasn't heard about this case in some shape or form, said Hembroff. A jury trial would have just been a gamble. The court date is set for January 26, 2004. Meanwhile, Lethbridge Council and citizens have been trying to get her to resign. She is stripped of her deputy mayor status by a vote of 7-1. You can guess who was the only nay. January 25, 2004. A day before the trial, the citizens of Lethbridge are interviewed. A few are excited for more drama to gossip about, but the majority just want it finished so they can move on with their lives. Dar can't go out without people taking pictures of her and approaching her in the grocery store. Remember, this is a time before people had cell phone cameras, so getting your picture taken in public required an entirely separate, somewhat bulky device, and it felt very invasive. January 26th, 0 hour. The court is packed, the bell is rung, and Hembroff comes out swinging. The Edmonton Journal recounts the debacle. Hembroff didn't look over the police notes and says Lethbridge police used David, Dar's husband, as an agent of the state to provide incriminating evidence. Personally, this confuses me because it seems like she's complaining that David cooperated with the police to find his wife, despite not reading their notes on the case, so why would she think that? Ugh. As with any trial, the longer it goes on, the more information is made public. Some of the stalker's letters were made public in the Vancouver Sun and Calgary Herald. Loneliness is a hell of a thing. But was she lonely? Dar says she can't remember the last time she went on a date with her husband. But David's police interview paints a very different picture. He was wondering if she was cheating on him when he found partially burnt letters in the fireplace, porn on a CD, and Dar started wearing sexy lingerie around him. The couple's sex life improved around the time of the letters, but the fights were absolutely brutal. Dar was clearly struggling, but accepted no help, not even from her husband. Now the world was watching, as they confront their grievances. Since Hembroff brought the character of the local police into question, their investigation methods were analyzed. When Dar first complained about the letters, the cops put her house under daytime surveillance. A letter came at night. Okay, well, if that's how the guy wanted to play, let's put a camera at the front door. The letter came to the back door. Okay, well, I guess there's only one person we have to surveil, and that would be Dar, fearing a stalker might be seeing her every move. She was found at the library reading about stalkers. No, I'm dead serious. She was that obvious, and sent daily emails to investigators complaining her family was in danger. The next update by the Edmonton Journal details clear proof that she was tampering with police investigations. Dar had received lingerie from a stalker. When asked what happened to the item, she said she burned them to prevent police from pinning the harassment letters on her husband. Again, this is the man who stood by her every word up to this point. He raised her kids while she was partying in Vegas, chartered a private plane to pick her up, and believed her every step of the way while cooperating with police. The very same one Hembroff was trying to accuse. So, she destroyed evidence because police would pin it on him? Really? She also destroyed a disc containing pictures with her head photoshopped onto another woman's body. When asked if she may be dissociated and doesn't remember photoshopping her head onto another woman's body or writing letters, she denies it. What she doesn't deny is traveling to the neighboring community of Pincher Creek to take private self-defense lessons from a constable serving the community. David knew she was going to one lesson. He didn't know she went 8 other times.
The constable was found and told the court that no relationship developed between the two, despite their closeness in court.
She also asked him about roofies. Having been roofied myself, I would really like to say this, if you're listening, Dar, fuck you. That's all. By February, Hembroff's gamble seems to be working. She pivots and presses the police about the lack of alibi for David. By this point in the trial, Dar has totally thrown her husband under the bus. Outside the court, Rock 106, a local radio station, makes Dar-themed bumper stickers. Bin Dar Dun Dar. I took Dar to Vegas. The stickers are said to be more popular than tickets to Metallica. February 19th, 2004. The names on the letters are finally released. Handles like Darling 1, Darling 14, and names from the movie Lady Hawk like Isabeau, Virtual Navarre 2, and Lady Hawk Gem were used. A quick aside, so Lady Hawk is a 1985 film starring Matthew Broderick as Philippe Gaston the Mouse, Rudiger Hauer as Etienne of Nevers the Werewolf, and Michelle Pfeiffer as Isabeau of Anjou the Dayhawk. It's a pulpy paperback Harlequin romance put to screen. It should be left in the realm of fantasy. Regardless, the defense tries to say anyone could have written those letters and pinned a new fling, an unnamed City of Lethbridge employee, as the sender. After all, Dar's work computer was second-hand. Anyone could have been Darling 14. David's life begins to unravel, and he no longer comes to the trials. He is characterized as being jealous of Dar's success. After all, he moved the family from Edmonton to Lethbridge to start a career in firefighting. He wanted Dar to be a lonely housewife, and she was so much more. Yeah, right. I'd like to remind you one more time, this guy cooperated with police fully and chartered a private jet to get her. The judge is shown the stalker's letters compared to passages in the stalking book Dar was caught reading. Some of the passages are plagiarized nearly 1-to-1. May 21st, 2004. Some misdemeanor charges are dropped when Dar signs a plea agreement. The whole trial was for nothing other than mandating her to go to therapy. She's found guilty and will be sentenced in September. Not only did she get away from any responsibilities, she got to keep her job. Dar's mother cried. David just stared at the judge. The verdict is equally maligned by the public, 82% of whom want her to resign, according to an unofficial Calgary Herald poll at Lethbridge College. Mayor Tarlek is going through every avenue to try to get her off council, but wants to avoid any wrongful termination suits. There has been enough court around Dar Heatherington. July 1st, 2004. Dar still holds on to her seat in council. Seriously. With her sentencing in fall and elections coming up, folks are wondering how she's going to move past the incident and get re-elected again. The city is now being called the hometown of Dar. Lethbridge is a great city. I can personally attest to that. It deserves better than just being a hometown of a scandal. She writes a defiant letter on July 12th claiming that the push to have her resign is just posturing for the upcoming election. August 10th, 2004. Under overwhelming public and council pressure, Dar resigns.
She read a lengthy resignation letter in council and asked them to vote her out.
That's an easy ask. After a psychiatric evaluation and a suicide attempt trying to jump off the high-level bridge, Dar is found to be of sound mind. Since this is her first conviction, again, she is treated very lightly. Darlene Heatherington, who made 3 different police services rescue her from a delusional fear and loathing style Las Vegas romp, is sentenced to 8 months of house arrest, no unprescribed inebriates, and 100 hours of community service. She can leave to go get essentials like groceries and doctor's visits, and it's good because she's been put on Oxycontin, Remeron, and Imovane. That's some heavy drugs, but it is the 2000s. David is furious. He doesn't want Dar at home, saying this will affect their family. Yeah, I don't blame him. A month later, she's already breaking house arrest, taking her kids to skating lessons. The judge doesn't really seem to care. After a failed appeal, she gets another 50 hours of community service, but is told she can continue with her day-to-day. Anecdotally, I've spoken to Bridgers that say Dar was out shopping for quite a lot of things when she was on house arrest. No, I can't tell you why she did this, and Dar won't tell anyone either. From all the evidence we have read, this seems like a pretty obvious case of a lonely middle-aged woman who was burnt out and needed a vacation away from her family, but just didn't know how to tell them she needed a fling. If the long-distance emotional pen pal was real, then she just wasn't happy with the intimacy in her marriage either, despite the uptick once the letters started. I get it. We all get it at Dive In. People reach a breaking point in their life. We've done that. Everyone has done that. The smart people go to therapy and learn to be honest with themselves. Dar wanted a fantasy, so she made one out. But sorry to be super cringy, that's why they don't show the end of fairy tales. They don't have good endings, they don't make sense in real life. To make it worse, this was the only news on TV. The 2004 hockey lockout was in full swing, so Dar made front page news almost every time something happened to her. The incident ruined the Hetheringtons' life, finances, and marriage. The family would eventually owe a little over $40,000 to creditors, including David's $6,000 private jet charter. This is on top of their mortgage, car, and living debts, so good luck with that. The only option was personal bankruptcy by July 2005. Filed separately, of course. Not that it mattered, but in November of 2005, she had her sentencing reduced and her house arrest removed for the last 6 weeks. Her family's name was slowly leaving the ears of the public, and before the new year, the Hetheringtons were just another family living in the land of whoop-up. Their 15 minutes of fame were done. Great Falls and Lethbridge are still great twin cities. In 2004, the Great Falls Council went up to Lethbridge to repair relations, and that seems to have worked. We'll end this with an analysis from Abnormal Psychology, an integrative approach by David H. Barlow and V. Mark Durand. Regarding dissociative fugue, they liken it to the similarly sudden disappearance of Agatha Christie in 1926, but hesitate to fully commit Dar to a fugue state. It's stress. We all have too much stress in this world, in our lives, and we are placing it squarely in middle age, causing all kinds of problems down the road. We may not know why Dar ran, in her own words, but we have a good theory 20 some odd years later. Please, be kind and honest to yourselves. When a relationship doesn't work anymore, make sure to be honest with the other people involved and just do the right thing. Thanks for watching.